What's up guys, Ryan from Cortex Labs, livecortex.com, here to talk about why you can't fix your junk problems. This is going to actually be a really good video and a highly informative one. I hope to get a lot of people off the wrong track and put a lot of people on the right track. In the meantime, please subscribe to the channel. If you're watching this and not sub, just hit the sub button and then hit the bell to get notified of all the content that I put out, because I'm pumping out 3, 4, or more videos per week. Go to livecortex.com if you want access to powerful nootropic products that optimize performance, as well as testosterone enhancing products like the Testosterone Superclass, host of other male performance stuff there. I'll talk about it at the end. I guess I just want to say, like, being a consultant on the matter, I see there's a lot of confusion about it, right? There is, and it seems to be one of the most puzzling things for guys. Like, they just can't figure out how to do it. Their test is super high, but yet, they have no libido. Or their test is within normal range, everything else looks good, all their blood parameters look fine, and they've got erection quality problems and they can't figure out why. It's just a really, really puzzling thing for a lot of guys. And having been in this arena for such a long time, first starting from trying to raise my own testosterone when it was at 290 when I was 33, which is terrible, to now being 38 and on a natural protocol and got my numbers up to somewhere around 900. It's just something that I've learned the ins and outs of because I had to. And so I want to share some things that I've learned over time and why you can't fix your junk problems. Number one, lack of patience. Now, I know some of you right away are like, oh, fucking this guy, lack of patience. Like, what is he talking about? Look, man, if you're trying to raise your test at any level or you're trying to optimize sexual function, you definitely need to be a part of the testosterone subreddit, because in there you will find guys that are on week 7 of full-blown TRT, right? I mean, these guys are injecting testosterone into their fucking delts or their thigh. These guys at 6 weeks, some of them still have junk problems. Some guys in that form have total test numbers sky high, right? 1,300, 1,400, way in the super physiological range, and their fucking dick still doesn't work. Some of them need to change their dose frequency. Like, that's like this thing in the TRT community where people, instead of injecting once a week, more people are inclined to be injecting, 3x weekly every other day, and in some cases every day. I know that sounds like a little daunting or tedious or whatever, but it actually does keep stable concentrations of androgens in a much better place, and it negates some of the side effects that come with injectable testosterone. But like, you also have to think about this, like whether it's TRT or whatever, you're trying to raise your testosterone on a natural protocol, or perhaps you're using a gonadotropin hacking strategy. Like, if your tissues where the androgens bind to have been starved of androgens for a long, long time, including your actual junk, you sort of have to think of it like a person that's been like deprived of calories for a long time. This is actually true where a lot of systems and metabolism and physiology start to downregulate in that situation. So when you start feeding them calories again thereafter, it isn't instantly that they start to feel better, right? There's all kinds of leftover issues. There's gut issues, there's perhaps thyroid issues, their body temperature drops down and they're always fucking cold. They have generally no energy. They've lost a lot of muscle mass. So, that's hurting their metabolism. So it may take, once that person starts eating enough calories, it may take a month, 2, 3, or more to fix some of the issues that being in a caloric deficit cause. The same is true of starving yourself of androgens, right? When your test has been low for a long, long time, that rehab time, you need rehab time, and that may actually take like a pretty long time. I'm talking about 2 months, 3 months, 4 months or more, and that may take time. PSSD, the condition I often talk about that I treat and help men, I don't like to use the word treat, that I've got a biohacking service on, where SSRIs really, really fuss with the neurochem side and the hormonal side of sexual function, and their orgasms are muted, their junk does not work, their libido is non-existent, they're pretty much asexual people. A lot of those folks don't have the patience. Some people will come on board and then literally 2 months later will drop out of the program, right? Thinking that, recovery in sexual function happens that quickly when it's so starved of the necessary androgens and sex hormones and neurotransmitter binding to the actual junk in some cases, that that can recover in 2 months or something. I just get people that don't understand the process and that drop out in 2 months, which is utterly insane. And I fucking hate it. I honestly hate it. That's why I filter these days. I just don't even want people coming to me that are gonna give me any inclination that they're gonna drop out of a program and be all crazy about it. Look, I think you have to think of it this way. You know, if you've got junk problems, it probably took a long time for you to ruin the functionality of your junk, right? Unknowingly, you know, it took a long time for your test to drop. It took a long time, you know, for, you know, perhaps blood flow problems to be created, you know, and potentially even upstream, you know, cardiac issues. These things took a long time to be created. You ate like shit for a long time. You slept like shit for a long time. And reversing that is gonna take maybe not equally as long, but you gotta be patient with the process. And I think a lot of guys that try to fix their junk issues with supplements or protocols don't give it enough time before they switch to the next protocol. Then they're on to something else again, and they just sort of stay in a perpetual state of trying new things and never fix their junk problems, okay? That is a really important point that I want you guys to get. Please don't forget that I just said that. So whatever it is that you did to, you know, to downregulate GRNH and whatever, whether it was under eating, overtraining, etc., that took quite some time, so recovery is going to take some time too. But overall, don't have a lack of patience. I mean, again, just think of the TRT guys. Those guys, in some cases, take 8 weeks, 9 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks or more to dial their doses in and actually get their junk functional again on full-blown TRT. Don't forget that I said that as well. Number 2 reason that you can't fix your junk is you're focusing myopically on one area. You're focusing myopically on just one area. Let's just call it testosterone only, right? You're focusing on testosterone only, thinking that's the only thing that is involved in getting your junk functioning. Now, look, it's a really critical element in getting your junk functional. I mean, without testosterone, you know, without high levels of testosterone, it's hard to see a case where a person's junk would be very functional. And you're going to need high levels of testosterone to feel like a man, to feel strong, to build muscle, to lose fat, to feel good, to have energy, to be confident, to have great sexual function, erections, and libido. But, you know, I mean, again, like you'll see guys that are shooting their numbers, their total test numbers in the super physiological range and end up still feeling like shit. First of all, they've got all kinds of side effects from really, really uber high testosterone, and at the same time, their junk still doesn't work, right? Because estradiol is like right behind the testosterone, following it, kind of rising at the same, you know, somewhat at the same level because it's being aromatized, and then their test to estrogen ratio is way off, and then their dick stops working. So you got a guy on 1400 that's pinging on paper 1400 nanograms per deciliter, or call it 1100 in total testosterone, which you'd like be like, that dude's probably a fucking god in bed. And his dick doesn't work, right? It's because, you know, estradiol is following, and the total T to estradiol ratio is all jacked up, and I don't know, perhaps other neurosteroids, progesterone, DHEA, pregnenolone, they're all out of whack. Maybe his prolactin shot up. Maybe he's taken aromatase inhibitor and his estrogen is too low. You just don't know, right? When you focus too myopically on just one area, like you're just wanting to raise testosterone only, you know, that could contribute to you ultimately not fixing your junk problems, because it is more than testosterone. I mean, there's the neurochem side, there's the lifestyle side, there's the blood flow side, there's hosts of other elements in this game. Some people are focusing on the neurochem side only, like the PSSD community, these folks that have, you know, had their sexual function greatly diminished from SSRIs, antidepressant medication, and closely related medications. You know, these guys are focused they're very fixated on not only the neurochem side, like neurotransmitters and receptor sites, etc., but they're even more myopically fixated on like one serotonin receptor. And if it's just sort of like, if that's how sexual function worked, like it'd just be really, really easy. You could just agonize that receptor and get the sexual function response and do that consistently and you'd be straight. But physiology does not work that way, nor does sexual function. It's much more complicated than, you know, 5-HT1A receptor or even serotonin as a neurotransmitter system. Don't myopically focus on one area. Don't just focus on testosterone. Don't just focus on dopamine. Focus on all of it. Testosterone, prolactin, estradiol, dopamine, serotonin, acetylcholine. All of it needs to be factored in when you're trying to fix your junk issues. The third reason that people have a difficult time fixing their junk issues is that they're not hitting every angle, okay? Every angle. And that's kind of like what I was just alluding to. You gotta hit every angle, man. You gotta hit the hormonal side, and that has its own kind of subdomains of things that you need to be paying attention to. Testosterone, estradiol, prolactin, as I said, progesterone, pregnenolone, DHEA, thyroid hormone in some instances, right? But then you've got blood flow, okay? So like if you know you have libido but your EQ is terrible, well, blood flow is a big part of that. And like you need to be looking at blood flow. If you're executing on the optimization side, maybe some PDE5 inhibitors, like Icarin is a natural PDE5 inhibitor. And then obviously you've got, you know, some of the pharmaceutical ones like sildenafil and tadalafil. I always forget how to say it. They're so weird. The names are so strange, honestly. It's like they got some guy who's like, let's just make all the stuff that people can't pronounce and let's just call it that. So then there's the lifestyle part of it, right? So like you got the hormonal side, which again consists of all these other elements, not just testosterone. Then you got the blood flow side. And then you have the lifestyle side, you know, like people are focusing on just the blood flow side. They're not focusing on the hormonal side, and they also sleep like shit and eat like shit. You've got a good strategy to fix your junk problems encompasses everything, my friends. It is lifestyle. It is like, you know, it's how you sleep. It's how you exercise. It's how you eat. It's whether or not you're getting enough macros, enough micros. It's the hormonal side, but not just tests. It's every single, you know, sex hormone. On the blood flow side, it's blood flow, right? You got to focus on everything. The last reason you can't fix your junk problems, and I probably want to expand into this and kind of go a little deep for you folks, is dogma. Dogma, okay? Now let me just kind of break this down. Let me think of the first example. You know, you got guys that say everybody should be in the 1,200 or 1,300 nanograms per deciliter range of total testosterone, because that's what the ranges kind of used to be. It actually seems to keep lowering, like over time, just slowly, maybe every couple years, kind of the reference range is lowering a little bit, which is sort of weird. But you know, it used to be, or at least we think it used to be, there's kind of scant evidence for this, but we think it used to be a lot higher, the reference range in total testosterone, right? And so there are certain guys that are super dogmatic about that. And they're like, no matter what, dude, you've got to get your test at least at 1,200 nanograms per deciliter, and that's where you've got to go. Thereafter, maybe there's some rehab that testosterone does, all the androgens binding to the tissues, and you'll eventually get better thereafter as far as EQ and libido and these types of things. But again, like as a consultant on the matter, I have seen that not to be the case. I've seen some guys respond really well, you know, to high levels of total testosterone, right? Assuming that their testosterone estradiol ratio is good and they're not aromatizing a ton of that testosterone into estradiol, and that's not causing its own kind of, you know, issues related to libido and the junk. But like I've seen guys at the 1,500 nanograms per deciliter mark on total test, and their free test is fucking sky high, dude. You would think these guys are walking around popping boners behind chicks everywhere they fucking go and thinking about sex 24/7 instead of every 7 seconds. But no, you got guys at that level of testosterone that have ED, dude. It's just not a one-size-fits-all thing at all. And the dogma out there, like you've got to be at like super high tests and that's the only way, is like totally insane. The dogma of having an aromatase inhibitor, well, you know, as your testosterone raises, so does your estrogen, and you know you have to have an aromatase inhibitor or something like that, the equivalent supplementally, to, you know, take care of the raising estrogen. Not necessarily true. Some guys, you know, depending on their dose and their physiology, will do fine with low dose aromatase inhibition. Other guys, you know, when they crash their E2, they also crash their libido, also crash their junk. You know, in the testosterone community, there are some guys that believe like you should be starting out, or you should have for at least, you know, 6 months, like a 200 milligram dose. Or call it 175 to 200 milligrams. I don't believe that. In fact, I've seen it to be the opposite, right? I've seen it that most people should actually kind of start lower and then work their way up. They may end up needing a higher dose of, you know, testosterone, but, you know, in the end, it's better for them to start low and work their way up, and a good bit of people kind of end up in that sort of middle ground, and some people respond to lower doses. This is actually really weird. But again, like, it's just this dogma that says that you've got to start at this level, or you've got to get your numbers to this level. It's just not how physiology works. And the difference between men, especially in terms of their conversion to estradiol and how that interplays with prolactin, you know, and kind of what their other sex hormones are doing, like progesterone and DHEA and pregnenolone, it's not as cookie cutter as you just need to skyrocket your numbers to a certain point or be on this dose of testosterone if you're running TRT. Dogma sometimes will have guys doing inefficient shit. Like, taking 3 or 4 compounds because they heard or they saw some YouTube video of a guy saying just these two compounds will work. There's a lot of YouTube videos of dudes that are like, Tonga and Fedosia, man, this is what I did. People just want things to be simple. And I took Tonga and Fedosia for 6 days, and wow, my ball size is growing and my erection quality is growing, and I'm even seeing a bigger junk in general. And people, guys are like, oh, I'll just do that. You would be better off learning how the system actually works and then approaching it in a multifaceted, complex way to raise testosterone than shooting for 2, 3, or 4 compounds. And that's dogmatic in and of itself to think that will allow you to raise test. Your way of thinking is incorrect if you think oh, I'll just take some fenugreek. Has anyone ever used fenugreek for tests? And you got a guy that goes, yeah. Then there's a guy try boron, bro. Have you ever tried boron for test? Yeah, I've tried. It's what the dude? Boron's gonna interact with sex hormone binding globulin. Yes, but that is in no way, in no world, the whole fucking picture. Don't let dogma prevent you from doing something, prevent you from lowering your dose of testosterone, raising your dose of testosterone, going on DRT. Don't let dogma make it so that you only try 1 or 2 compounds. Don't let dogma make you think that estrogen is terrible and you need to avoid it at all costs. Estrogen has very many legitimate properties in the male body. But it's if you have it too high, it may need to be lower. Right? But if it's too low, it's going to crash your mood and crash your dick as well. So it's just, you can't be dogmatic with it, man. You've got to take the situation more individually and titrate up or down on dose, strategy, and protocol and find your individual sweet spot on everything. So breaking down things having a more complex, multifaceted approach, that's one of the really, really cool elements of the testosterone superclass, because in that course, it's yours truly, whiteboard style, breaking a lot of this down and giving you protocols that are highly effective at raising tests. No dogma involved. This is just very objectively, this will raise your testosterone, that will raise your testosterone, here's how to dose it, here's what to do. So you really should get that course if you're kind of unclear about how to fix your junk issues. And maybe you've been thinking some of this stuff and you just kind of need some direction on protocols to get it done. The testosterone superclass is about 1 hour and 15 minutes long, so it breaks down, pretty much in detail, various highly effective strategies to raise test. Factored into my natural protocol, which I'm on now, and it's honestly awesome and doing me really well, is, aromatase inhibition, but not at a significant level, right? It's the most generally applicable strategy there is in a testosterone raising protocol. So get the Testosterone Superclass, livecortex.com, if you're trying to raise your testosterone and just want to learn more about how to do it and get protocols that actually work. We make an amazing nootropic stack, and we also have another one launching called Torque, and that's launching very soon, so I'll talk about that in just a second. But Cortex stack, this stuff is insane. It enlivens your brain, and nootropics are so popular these days, and I'm so happy because I've been using them for 15 years. They help me to run my company better. They help me to function better throughout the day. They help me exercise more. They help me meditate better. They help me clear my brain better, the right nootropic stack. And so they're just awesome. And I built one for hard chargers, right? If you're a conquer type individual that just wants to get shit done, or you want to be the conquer type of individual that has motivation, mental energy, that productive drive, that just I just want to get stuff done type of brain function, buy the Cortex stack, because more than likely you're going to respond really well to it. And when you take a couple capsules and 25 minutes later you can actually feel your brain turning on, you will thank me. Buy Cortex at livecortex.com. The best way to get it is on subscription, okay? Get it shipped to you every month. Take it 4 or 5 times a week, totally fine. Cycle on the weekends. If you don't want to go through the rigmarole of building a bunch of stacks, just use Cortex, okay? If eventually you build tolerance, then you're going to have to buy Nootropics God course and learn how to build some other stacks. But the stack is really awesome. If you need my help in any of these areas, whether it is testosterone, fixing your junk, getting your hormones straight, getting your libido and EQ back, or it's the nootropic side, designing nootropics to actually giving you advice on what to take. We've got all kinds of consulting programs. You can get on the phone with me for 25 minutes, and that's good for handling some situations that you might be in that you can't figure out. Like, I can give you the advice on what to do moving forward, right? You're stuck on something related to brain physiology or nootropics or testosterone, and you just need an expert to kind of weigh in. We've got more complex ongoing programs where I will formulate your entire nootropics regimen. Those are the ongoing biohacking consulting programs, and those are really good for people that have the budget, right? It's a monthly fee, and just kind of want me by their side to optimize, facets of physiology. Again, whether it's related to testosterone or brain function or energy or all of those things. If you want to book a call with me, go do it at livecortex.com. If you want to book a larger ongoing consulting program, please go do it at livecortex.com. Slots are limited on the ongoing, so you've got to get on it if you've been thinking about it. Thank you so much for being with me, everybody. Talk to you next time.